Hi there. Welcome to the first edition of Go Ask Gabby. And I just wanted to say for a minute about that name. Thanks if you are one of those people who responded to the contest and the poll, I should say, on do we call it Dear Gabby, do we call it Go Ask Gabby, or just Ask Gabby. And Go Ask Gabby is something my students, when I worked at Santa Barbara City College years ago, used to say, because I really cared. And they really had challenges and issues. And one person would just say to the other, you know, what should I do? Should I do this? Should I do that? And they'd say, I don't know, but go ask Gabby. And now here I am a couple decades later, and I focus more with couples. Not more, I focus exclusively with couples. Every now and then I work with a company or a family. I even got to work with a mother and a daughter when they created a relationship vision together. That was really an honor, and a 90-day game with their goals for that. But today, and for this focus, it is couples, and that's my passion. My husband and I, you know, we almost didn't make it. People advised us at the engagement party. People advised us at the wedding. My dad, half jokingly, half seriously, said, you know, you can go out the side door here. Like, no, Dad, I want to do this. And here we are 15 years in, and people are asking us, what do we do? How do we do what you had done? And that's why I do it, because we almost didn't work out, and I feel like great relationships end up going south because people get frustrated with how difficult it is, and they think there's something wrong with their relationship or there's something wrong with them, and there isn't. Life is just full on and stressful, and we're under-resourced, and it's hard enough to deal with all this in ourselves, let alone to then deal with the other person's dynamic and the two of you and how those two intermesh, you know, to become what I like to say, we want to be weaving the tapestry that becomes the trampoline for our transformation individually and as a couple. And if you have kids or your fur babies or anything like that, then as a family. So let's get to some of the questions. Thanks for sending those in, whether it was in the comments on social media or whether it was in the form. I appreciated gathering those this week and looking through them. And we have a couple different varieties today, a few different topics, so we'll see where we go. Okay, the first question, my wife and I are both busy with work and kids, and then in the evenings we find it hard to reconnect once the kids are down, often hanging out in our own separate worlds. How can we cultivate the discipline to put the screens down and connect? So first of all, I totally understand, right? You're just juggling kids and work, and the brain thinks, oh, I don't want any more coming at me. It's just going to drain me more. I just want to tune out. And you pull the screens out is the most common go-to. It can be lots of other things for different people, but yeah, the screens are a common one. You know, interesting you use the word discipline, because discipline is usually based on, you know, your choice and free will and generating that energy, which is finite. What I'd recommend more is looking at how you can make them habits, how you can make it a part of your couple culture, and have it be okay when it happens, great when it happens, and have it be okay when it doesn't happen. I've been working a lot with couples lately on meetings and schedules and calendars. They want to do this and they want to do that, and they want time to themselves and time with their family and time with the two of them. How do they balance it all? A calendar is not a magic wand, but it's one more layer of those tools. So you might plan that, hey, you know, a couple nights a week you do just do your own thing and do your own screens. And a couple nights a week you don't, and you actually schedule, even if it's a date for a 20-minute walk around your neighborhood. Even if it's brainstorming about your dream vacation, even if it's, you know, even if you can't go right now, even if it's reminiscing about a past experience. It doesn't matter or have to be something big or long, but to start finding ways that that work for you. One thing my husband and I used to do, at one point we lived 12 minutes from, whoops, there. We lived 12 minutes from the ocean. So we'd stop work and set the timer, and could we get there in less than 15 minutes and get down there? And even if we just stayed there 5 minutes and came back, and you may not be near the beach, but even just going outside can make a big difference, just getting some fresh air and moving your bodies. I'm not one for working out, but I have been working out because my beloved is so inspired, and he's inspired me for working out. But doing something that you both want to do, doing that together. It might be, exercise is so good for your mental health. It's so good for your physicality as well. And so there might be, even if it's not, maybe you're on a different page with exercise, just doing something active. If you happen to like dancing, scheduling in a little dance break. Now, you were talking about the discipline to how to do this. So let me go back to that for a bit. I like to play. We're in the season of play right now. So I encourage you to play some games and make it easy. Stack the cards in your favor so you don't have to remember and force yourself, but actually you have the reminders come at you. So you might take some fun pictures of you and your beloved having a great time and put them in a folder on your screensaver for your computer. So as you come away from your computer or come back to your screen, you see that what's coming up is these great memories, and you might be inspired then to go and create some new ones with your beloved. I love using the refrigerator, right? Write something on a Post-it, go for a walk, take a dance break, make a list of your top, 10 favorite dance break songs, put them up on the refrigerator. The bathroom mirror is a great place. Your reminders on your phone. And even if you don't wait until the end of the day, if you can, when you have breaks throughout the day, send a little message, create those little micro moments. Let me look at my notes, see if there's something I forgot to say. It's a habit. How many prompts will it take? Make it a game. It's the season of play. Make it a game. Both. Plan for some alone time, plan for some time together. But could be in the same night. Sometimes Raj and I used to have on our date nights, we do what we call a simultaneous solo, which means for the first hour or half an hour before we would go into our date night, we just make sure we had time to ourselves, whether that was we wanted to take a shower or, talk to a friend or take some extra time to get dressed up or whatever it is, but we had some time beforehand. Now, I know that can be difficult with kids. I don't have kids, so I bow down in all humility, but I did grow up in a very large family, and I did help raise my little brother. But I just want to be really transparent and have a lot of humility around the two children. I had someone once asked me, how do you help a couple get through an affair? I said, affairs are much easier. What's really hard is when someone has a 6-year-old and a 3-year-old, because that's been, 7 years of basically your partner looks like someone who could give you, get a chore done or let you get some additional sleep, right? So in this case, you want to make sure that you're cultivating the stacks, the hurdles are there. You want to stack the cards in your favor, stack the yards in your favor as much as you can. So habits, prompts, making it fun, and having it be okay to have alone time and solo time too, just as the balance. Take advantage of the micro moments. So maybe you are going to go and be on your phone, but maybe there's a moment after you've put the kids to bed or as someone has done the dishes and you come over and express your gratitude to each other. I like to play this game called 5 Gratitudes. And whether you're in conflict, you can use this to get out of conflict. Or if it's neutral, just come on up to your beloved, give him a little squeeze or caress, a little whisper, and say, hey, want to play 5 Gratitudes? And then tell them something you're grateful to them for. And then turn around and have them say it to you, and you go back and forth 5 times. Now, the great thing is that doesn't have to take very long, 5-10 minutes. And go back to looking at your phone if you want to. Now, of course, take entire nights. Raj and I don't consider it a date night unless it's 3 hours without any screen time and anybody else. So just find what works for you, what those parameters are, but it doesn't have to be, a weekend or even a whole night or even a whole hour. You can take 5 minutes with each other. You can take 1 minute with each other. You can take 30 seconds with each other and just do a 30 seconds of eye gazing. Okay, so thanks for that question. I hope that was helpful. Let me know. And all of you who are watching this as well, if you have your own suggestions, we are a community here of support, and a lot of us are experiencing similar hurdles and creativity. So share them. Play a game and let me know what games you've been playing. I actually had one couple I was working with that actually wrote a song, and the chorus went something like, "It's a dig-free zone." They wrote this song about what it's like working with me as a coach. That's one thing you can count on, is a dig-free zone. Maybe one day they'll let me release that song. It's a pretty fun one. They recorded it for me. But have some fun with it, right? Okay, so let's move on to the next question. I feel like our relationship is lopsided. I do most of the emotional heavy lifting for our relationship and I'm exhausted. How can I get him to do his fair share? Now, this could be a him or a her. In most relationships, both people feel like they're doing more than their fair share. How is that possible? Well, we're different people who do different things for the relationship. We care about different things. You might think, why is that important to them? Well, because they're different than you are. The things that are important to my husband are not the same things that are important to me. And sometimes what's important to him and what's important to me seem at odds. Now, when that happens and what you both want seem at odds, Raj and I like to just use a go-to tool called Bibto, that both is better than one, that we just assume that when we want different things, there's a synergy, there's a magic that's calling us forward. Now, this may not be even true, but it's the go-to place that when we both want something different, and it's most of the time has gotten us out of that and into an even better place than if either one of us got what we wanted individually. It's almost often the chocolate and the peanut butter, the synergy of what he wants and what I want when they come together, that's even the greatest thing in the end, right? So see where if you want something different, that you can look for the both. But you are going to have differences on how you communicate. I'm an extrovert, my husband's more of an introvert. There's a lot of different things are important to different people in relationship, and you don't have to. It's very helpful if you embrace the differences with your beloved. So it might seem like it's lopsided, but there's probably other things that they do where they feel that they're leading the way. So what I'm hearing is a call for appreciation and gratitude and some engagement, perhaps. Now, it's not that you want to give a list of demands and ultimatum, do this or else. But what I often will do, I call it getting on Go Street, when you may say to your beloved, G stands for make it a game. Hey, you want to play a game? The O stands for give them options. I don't know, we could do this, this, or this. What do you think we should do? The S stands for go slow and start small. Don't take a big, huge topic at first that there's a lot of trigger around. Practice this with a lower level trigger issue. And then the T stands for take turns. So you bring up an issue and they bring up an issue rather than going back and forth and back and forth. When you're taking turns, it's best to take at least 20 minutes, really hold what you're listening to about one person, if you can even 24 hours, and then talk about the issue that the other person wanted to talk about, even their perspective of that same issue. As much as you can slow it down, and just when one person brings an issue forward, really focus, kind of put on your Teflon suit and hold that experience for them as much as possible, so that they can do the same for you later on. Let's see what else here. I put here, relationship's not fair. It's not. 50-50 is just not where it is in relationship. Because there are times where I have a lot more to give and my husband doesn't. There are times where he has a lot more to give and I'm just under-resourced. There are times where I can just be a moody, triggered, short-fused, cranky bitch. And he has his, own flavor of that as well. Of course, it's a challenge when we're both in that space, but we want to remember that life is difficult and it's not fair. It might be that they had a tough day and they snap at you or they say something that's unfair. What's that quote? People need your love the most when they deserve it the least, right? So it's not going to be fair and it is going to feel lopsided sometimes. Now, if it's too lopsided for too long, that's a different question. That's a different story to consider. I do, if you want to build a couple culture, I do recommend that you get inspired about setting your own goals for relationship, and I like to call it loving better. Not about loving perfectly, loving better. And if you're setting goals for yourself and how you're going to show up in your relationship, your beloved's going to see that, and hopefully they'll be inspired too. You don't want to give them shoulds, you don't want to give them ultimatums, you want to give them inspiration, invitation, right? Hey, you want to play a game? That's an invitation. Okay, so it's not fair. Do what you're inspired to do and no more. Don't keep doing things and then feeling frustrated by them. I am much more quick to say what my desires and my needs are, but not be attached to them happening. My husband, when we first met, was far more likely to bite his tongue and be like, it's fine if I don't get that. It's not a big deal. It's not a big deal. And then he'd blow up about something. And I'm like, I want you to have what you want. Just tell me sooner. So you want to make sure that don't be a martyr in this. And don't think that everything you do, they have to do. Be open and inspirational, as I said before. Okay, don't expect them to do the same of what you're going to do. So again, you could say we could do this, this, or this. What do you think? My personality type, like I am much better as a nighttime person, so I'll be in charge of creating intimacy for us at night. And you're much more of a morning person. Why don't you be in charge of creating intimacy in the morning? So instead of trying to be what we're not, we're looking for where we do thrive and how we can take those opportunities to create connection together. All right. I already mentioned differentiation, personality typing. So yes, we're different people, and you don't want to do personality typing to label yourself, but it can be really helpful to, there's lots of free assessments out there. There's, the Myers-Briggs test, and there's free versions of that, the Gallup Strengths Finder, your love language, all of these factors. Love language is really important for relationships. So Google those, take those assessments. I'll even throw in there also the will, want, won't list. If you Google Alexa Martinez and the will, want, won't list, that's a fun one to do. But the personality, that one's not a personality typing. It's more it doesn't type you. Erotic Blueprint, that quiz will type you. And finding out how you're similar, how you're different, how those might interact. Some of the personality typing that my husband and I did was so helpful because I understand now what has him thrive and what stresses him out. This great company called Personality Hacker, they once did an assessment for us, for the two of us individually, and then thus us as a couple. They do it also for businesses, companies, but in this case they did it for us as a couple. And we discovered that we were similar in a lot of ways, and we were different in a lot of ways. But the most important tool they gave us was what to do for 5 to 15 minutes to give us a reset when we're under-resourced. So my husband, who is in the Myers-Briggs, he is a INFJ, introvert. It's introvert. He's the, okay, I'm too tired at the end of the day to go through them all. But that type of INFJ likes to have something physical sensory, and it has a beginning, middle, and end, closed loop, and particularly helpful if it's with water. So my husband likes to take showers, a lot of them, and sometimes it's just a 1-minute shower. He might have a big meeting coming up, or just had a big meeting. He calls it a reset rinse. And I used to be like, what are you doing taking another shower? And for my type, I'm similar to him, but I'm an ENFJ. I'm the extrovert in the family. And I like to see, I'm very empathetic, and so I get hooked emotionally in the smallest thing, even a little commercial. So I like to get the dopamine hit of seeing patterns, but without emotions. So puzzles. So I often keep a puzzle board underneath my couch, and when I'm feeling stressed and just need a little relaxation and reset, I pull that out. So understanding how you're both different, what your strengths are, I don't want to call them your weaknesses, but and specifically looking for where's the synergy with what you're both good at and what you're not as good at, and where you actually want to improve, and have it be okay for the places that it's not your strength. Okay, so hopefully that helps with some of the lopsided there. All right, next question. see where we're at time. Yeah, we got a few more minutes here. How do we know if a situation calls for advocating for yourself or simply letting it go and just not giving it any energy or power? It's a great question, because what you give energy to grows, right? And we want to give energy. I'm all about the forward focus and being proactive and what do you want, where most of us in relationship are going to naturally gravitate to the complaints and what's annoying us and what we don't want. So we have to really cultivate being intentional. My husband was just trying to come in here. I had to wave him off there. So you want to be intentional, as I was saying there, right? I also put on this list here right at the top to trust your gut. When something is of critical importance, then you can't stuff it. One of the rules that Raj and I shouldn't say rules, one of the games we like to play that we learned from another couple was if you think it 3 times, then share it. So if something is coming up a lot, and then you should not step over it because it's there. And if you keep sweeping it under the rug, it's going to come up. Now, also on the other side of that, timing is everything. And you don't have to, another friend, Shannon, taught me that you don't have to solve every conflict right in that moment. And often the best thing to do, one of my mantras is first restore connection, and then resolve the conflict. Trying to resolve conflict from in a conflict is often very unproductive. So taking those efforts, using your habits, using your tools, building them as a practice so it is just part of your culture. You know, my husband, we had an argument this last weekend, and it couldn't last more than 15 minutes when we're like, we don't like fighting with each other, and also being a relationship coach, I don't want to be a hypocrite. And we just used our tools. In that case, it was the ownership, compassion, and creativity. You down with OCC? Yeah, you know me. I think I'll fold that tip in just a moment. But the point is to use a tool and to have it be a habit as part of your culture. Okay, so trusting your gut. How do you know if a situation calls for advocating for yourself or simply letting it go? Now, I do want to say something about advocating for yourself. For years, 4 or 5 years, Raj and I, when we got into conflicts, it would be adversarial. And then we had to spend some time really getting it into our bones that it's us against the conflict. And he's got great ideas and I've got great ideas, but how can we address the conflict together instead of it having be about us? For years, I would say to him, I'm not your enemy. I'm not your enemy. And then I started saying, I'm your number one fan. I'm your number one fan. And now we know that. We also have a lot of good habits so that we pretty much schedule our conflicts, because once a week we have a 2-hour conversation. It doesn't have to be that for you, but we find that if we once a week have a 2-hour conversation where we talk about our calendar and our goals and our budget and all of those kind of factors, then we don't have to have it slipping in here and there and trying to handle the functional during the week, robbing us of the flirty. Instead, we get to be together in those micro moments and not, say bring up taxes or something while we're, at dinner or something like that. Okay, so trusting your gut. Oh, this is a great one. My mom taught me this one. Ask yourself how you're going to feel in 5 minutes. How are you going to feel in 5 hours, 5 weeks, 5 months? Often we're triggered and it's not the time to say something. You want to get it until you're owning it first. But also just, put things in context, put things in perspective. How are you going to feel about this in 6 months, in 6 minutes, right? Also ask, how's it familiar? How was this experience, this trigger around, maybe not exactly in those circumstances, but what's the core root? If you were 5 years old or 7 years old saying what your wound was, like, don't tell me what to do, or you're not paying attention to me, or whatever it might be, don't touch me. Hopefully not. But we want to look at what is that 7-year-old inside you saying, and own that, so that when you own that and say, I'm actually really triggered and having a tough time here. I know you probably didn't mean that, or that wasn't your intention. Can we talk about this from that perspective? And when they don't feel blamed, they don't have to be defensive, and they can lean in and be supportive. It's a lot more of an invitation that way. So soften, stand in ownership, compassion, and creativity. As I mentioned that tip before, whenever there's any conflict, whether it's feeling lopsided or not, whether you feel there's anything that you've done quote unquote wrong or not, it's a great habit to take ownership, not be a doormat, not, be codependent, but always to look for, well, how was I responsible? Not at fault, but how did I have an ability to respond? How could I have been generative? How could I have been patient, or said this isn't the right time, or gotten some help? Not making yourself to blame or a doormat, but actually leaning in for where can I respond? Where can I take action? Okay. Ownership, then compassion and creativity. So the compassion, get into their world. I know you've been having a bad day, or you've been stressed about this. I know you haven't eaten. I know this is a really important issue to you. Any of those, just get into their world and show them that you care about their world, even if it feels different for you. You care about their experience, even when it's different from yours. And then finally, the creativity. I don't know what we could do. Again, back from that tip, getting on Go Street, we could, we could, I'm just thinking of different scenarios on what you could do. We could, when we're upset, sing it out as a song, as a Broadway. We could whisper it to each other. Learned those ones from our friends Aaron and Dio recently with the Eden World Couples Community, which if you haven't heard about that, check it out. I'll talk about that another time. Let's see, we have like 3 minutes left, so I think I'll save this next question for next time, or put it back into the pot and see which other juicy ones we come out. But I will say then, I guess I'll leave you with this, with the resource about the Eden community. It's a couples community. I love it because it stretches this container of, it stretches your edges, but in a really fun, playful way. It's sexy, but it's really safe. It's structured for personal development, but it's really loose so that you can do as much or as little as you want. It has things for us as a couples, and it has opportunity and support for the women and the men, and infinite beings for those who identify in another way, any other way. You just want to go to that group. I love that this community has that available as well. And sometimes we have live events. We haven't for a while, but those will be coming back. And it's just one of my favorite places to go with couples. So I recommend you check that out. They have a monthly event that is both live in person at the clubhouse, the Eden Clubhouse, or you can come virtually. So check that out at Eden World. And then the other resource, I'll just point you, of course, to For Better Love. Any questions you have, we have a whole bunch of resources that are free, do it yourself, all the way up to what I like to call the full limo ride, where I do a lot of fun bells and whistles for you, and a lot of my personal time with you directly. But find what works for you. It's not about loving perfectly, as we like to say here. It's about loving better. And it's not about how your beloved needs to love better. It has to come from autonomy. It has to come from you. So keep asking those questions. Keep bringing them, and keep sharing on social media about them and the results that you're getting, the hopes you have, the hurdles that you're overcoming, or the hurdles you want some help with. Got my little triple alliteration in there. I love to have fun with those. And it is the season of play. So let's look for how we can lean into loving better and bringing more play to our relationship. You can bring play to your finances, play to having free time. It's summertime, right? So let's have some fun together. Grab those micro moments wherever you can. Be generous, be compassionate, take ownership, and send in your questions for next week. Thanks so much for watching. Bye.